Chapter 25, Section 4. Hitler plunges Europe into war. Great Britain and France chose to avoid war with Germany by allowing Hitler to behave as he pleased. But Hitler had no interest in avoiding war and grew bolder with every aggressive step he took. In March 1939, he broke the Munich Pact by invading Czechoslovakia and seizing control of Prague, the Czech capital. As Churchill suspected, appeasement only made Hitler more eager to conquer new territory. The takeover of Czechoslovakia finally caused Britain and France to draw a line in the sand. They declared that if Germany made any further attacks on small states, then they would declare war. Hitler signs a non-aggression pact with Stalin. Part of Hitler's plans for war involved Stalin, the communist leader of the Soviet Union. Communists and Nazis despise each other and had little reason to cooperate. Yet Hitler sought an agreement with Stalin to keep the Soviet Union neutral in the coming war. Hitler offered Stalin a non-aggression treaty, and Stalin accepted it. The German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact, signed in August 1939, served the interests of both leaders. Hitler planned to attack Poland, an action that was likely to ignite a broader war in Europe. The geography of that war concerned him. The Soviet Union lay to the east. Britain and France lay to the west. Hitler could not afford to fight a war on two fronts, east and west, at the same time. For that reason, Soviet neutrality was vital. The pact helped Stalin, too. The Soviet dictator wanted more power and secure borders. As part of the pact, Hitler secretly promised to give Stalin part of Poland and grant him a sphere of influence in Eastern Europe. But Hitler already had plans to attack the Soviet Union, which had vast, fertile farmlands that were a key to fulfilling the quest for Lebensraum. Hitler also understood that Nazi Germany could not coexist for long with the communist USSR to its east. German armies rolled across Europe. With the Soviet Union neutralized, Hitler sprang into action. On September 1, 1939, the German army marched east into Poland. 2 days later, France and Britain, the Allied powers, declared war on Germany. World War II had begun. In Poland, the German armed forces relied on a strategy of blitzkrieg, or lightning war. Without any warning, German bombers launched attacks on railroads, airfields, communication networks, military bases, and other strategic sites. These attacks helped prevent Polish mobilization, the assembling of troops, and equipment for war. Meanwhile, waves of infantry supported by tanks and artillery pushed toward key cities. Germany's method was to outflank, surround, and destroy. Motorized units quickly swept around and encircled the Polish army. Warplanes rained bombs and bullets on the enemy. Then the foot soldiers moved in to finish the job. Ill-equipped and overwhelmed, the Polish forces quickly collapsed. On September 17th, the Soviet army invaded Poland from the east. By the 1st of October, Germany and the USSR had complete control of the country. Hitler now switched his focus to the west. He moved soldiers to Germany's border with France and the Low Countries, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. France relied for its main defense on the Maginot Line, a string of heavily armed fortresses along the German. Most French troops massed here, while others gathered along the border with Belgium. British forces crossed the English Channel, prepared to aid France and the Low Countries. For the next few months, not much happened on the Western Front. American newspapers began referring to this as the Phony War. Then suddenly, in a series of lightning actions, the Germans struck. In April 1940, they launched a surprise attack on Denmark and Norway. Within a few weeks, Germany had conquered these two Scandinavian countries. Next, on May 10th, the Germans invaded the Low Countries. In just 18 days, these three countries would fall into German hands. Using blitzkrieg tactics, the main German force burst through Luxembourg and southern Belgium into France in just 4 days. Then it began a dramatic drive toward the French coast. Skirting the Maginot Line, the Germans sped westward, encircling defenders. Hundreds of thousands of French and British troops found themselves trapped in a shrinking pocket of French countryside. They retreated toward the port of Dunkirk on the northwest coast of France. Britain sent every boat it could find across the English Channel to evacuate the soldiers. The daring rescue saved some 338,000 men. Meanwhile, Paris was about to fall to the Germans. Mussolini took this opportunity to declare war on Britain and France. Italy and Germany became known as the Axis powers. On June 22nd, France surrendered to Germany. Under the terms of the armistice, Germany would occupy 3/5 of the country. The southeast would become a puppet government known as Vichy France. A puppet government is one that is run by citizens of a conquered country who carry out the policies of the conqueror. Britain fights on alone. Britain, now led by Prime Minister Winston Churchill, stood alone against the Axis powers. After the evacuation from Dunkirk, Churchill had vowed to fight Germany and defend Britain with every resource at his disposal. In a speech to Parliament, he declared,
"We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender."
Speech before the House of Commons, June 4th, 1940. Hitler wanted to conquer Britain, but he knew that the large and powerful British Navy could keep his army from crossing the English Channel. To defeat that navy, he had to establish dominance in the air. He set up air bases in conquered lands from France to Norway and moved in some 2,800 bombers and fighter planes. German planes flew raids throughout the summer of 1940 and into the fall. They attacked British ships, ports, airfields, radar stations, and industrial centers. To counter this onslaught, the British sent up fighter pilots of the Royal Air Force, RAF, in an engagement known as the Battle of Britain. The RAF pilots, flying their Spitfires and Hurricanes, proved effective against the German air campaign. By late August, they had downed more than 600 German aircraft at a cost of 260 British planes. In September 1940, Britain launched its first bombing raid in Berlin. Germany shifted its target to British cities. For the next several months, bombing attacks devastated sections of London and other large cities. Londoners called this campaign the Blitz, a shortening of Blitzkrieg. By the spring of 1941, the number of raids dwindled. The British had successfully defended their homeland. That victory gave the Allies reason to believe that Hitler could be stopped.